Pulled up beside him, blaring beside Merle, and he said, "There's still some good in this world." He said that Hag was a poet for the common man.
Hello and welcome to Telling It Like It Is, UGA Extension, in Southeast District's newest source for local, unbiased, research-based information about Georgia's number one industry, agriculture. As always, my name is Blake Carter. I'm one of the co-hosts here for Telling It Like It Is. You'll hear from my other half co-host, Savannah Tanner, Manual County A&R agent, a little bit later. She'll be talking about soil amendments. But for now, I'm going to get us kind of kicked off due to one of us feeling under the weather. We actually had to record separately this time. So I'm going to kind of get things kicked off with a new segment focused on agriculture heroes. And this is in honor of Ag Week coming up in March. So the ag hero I really wanted to showcase or to talk about today is one of my personal favorites. His name is Dr. Charles Holmes Hurdy. He's also known as the patron saint of Georgia pines. So Dr. Hurdy was a pioneering chemist whose work revolutionized the naval stores and paper industries in American South, specifically Georgia. He was born in Milledgeville, Georgia in 1867, where he overcame a lot of early hardships. And I really want to stress that. This included losing both of his parents by the age of 9, and he also pursued an education in chemistry. And growing up without parents and choosing to go into chemistry, that's pretty rough. That's already a rough uphill battle right there. He graduated from the University of Georgia in 1886 and earned his PhD from Johns Hopkins University in 1890. Hurdy initially worked as a chemist and professor at UGA, but his claim to fame, most people know him as, is that he introduced football to the South, or to Georgia, organizing the university's first team and securing its first athletic field, later named Hurdy Field, which is on North Campus. However, his most impactful contributions came in the field of applied chemistry. His invention of the cup and gutter system for turpentine extraction in the early 1900s significantly reduced damage to pine trees and improved the efficacy of the naval storage industry. Basically, before this point, Georgia couldn't use southern yellow pine as a resource for paper. Then he introduced this, and it became a valid option. Later in the 1930s, he pioneered a process to convert southern yellow pine to high-quality paper, challenging the belief that only hardwoods were suitable for white paper production. His work led to the establishment of a thriving southern pulp and paper industry and revitalizing the region's economy during the Great Depression. And I think that's a big piece. You know, I always say that pine trees and poultry saved Georgia from the Great Depression, and I truly do believe that. It's because of the folks like Hurdy and D.W. Brooks and some other big ag folks throughout history that really helped Georgia make it be one of the states to come out of the Great Depression a little bit quicker than others. Hurdy's influence extended beyond industry, though. He was instrumental in advocating for government-funded scientific research and played a key role in the creation of the National Institute of Health. He also contributed to national defense efforts during World War I, and that might be one of my favorite parts of his life. Like, I mean, if you're just going to bucket list and checking the box to make sure you've completed everything, he's done everything. He's coached football at University of Georgia. He's created a pine tree, how to utilize southern yellow pine, and now he's also experimenting on chemicals and gas masks and poisonous gases during World War I. So I think that's an incredible span of things he's gotten to do during his lifetime. He was also honored with numerous awards, including the American Chemical Society's Hurdy Medal. His legacy lives on in institutions, scholarships, and buildings named in his honor. Excuse me. And Dr. Hurdy passed away in 1938, leaving an enduring impact on chemistry, forestry, and the Southern economy that we know today. So as we're getting into March, ag week's coming up, think about your ag hero. Uh, Maybe it's somebody that didn't set out to be in ag and it found them, kind of like Curdy. He didn't set out to make a change in the ag industry right off the bat. He wanted to be a pharmacist, and then he ended up finding a way to make an impact beyond that. Um, so just think about those things as we go into March. We'll be having some other segments on the podcast as we go. But I'm going to turn it over to Savannah. And until next time, keep doing it like it is. Savannah, take it away.
Hey guys, it's Savannah. I'm excited to talk with you today. We're kind of doing it a little untraditional today, so I'm recording by myself. And that being said, I think I've got a pretty good topic for you guys to listen into, and just some things to consider going into this cropping system. So this particular discussion is going to be more suited for our hayfield and forage guys, and even more suited for our row crop guys. And one of the things that we start getting some pretty heavy questions about this time of year is utilizing fertilizer byproducts, or byproducts as fertilizer, as soil amendments, and things like that. And in Emmanuel County, there's an abundance of these. So we have poultry plants, we have dog food plants, we have sawmills, and all of these companies are looking for their most economical way to dispose of the waste from their plants. And in their minds, the best way to do this is to find a farmer, to find land to put these products on. And so it transpires over into our cropping system with these products. And again, it can be poultry water, dog food water, wood ash, recyclime, chicken litter. All of these byproducts are being pushed for farmers to use them. And some of them are really good. Some of them are really not. And so what I've done today is put together some things to consider when we're trying to make the decision to use some of these byproducts versus just going ahead and biting the bullet and using a commercial blend fertilizer of some sort. And so the first thing to consider when we're making any kind of soil amendment and or fertilizer application to any land, whether that's a hayfield, whether it's peanut land, cotton land, corn land, any of that, is going to be, what does my soil sample say? What is my pH? What nutrients are in my soil? What levels of those nutrients are in my soil? And the second thing that kind of goes along with that is, what is the nutritional requirements of whatever crop I'm going to plant? And so with what we would consider a medium level soil sample, with peanuts, we don't say that if our phosphorus, our potassium, and our secondary nutrients are in that medium range, we say we don't have to fertilize a lot with peanuts. With cotton, you're going to need a 90-50-50. So that's 90 units of nitrogen, 90 units of phosphorus, 50 units of phosphorus, 50 units of potash. And so, again, what does my soil sample say? Where's my pH at? And then what are the nutritional requirements of the crop? And once we know and once we see those particular levels, then we can start calculating, okay, well, this product offers these nutrients, and sure, it may be worth doing it, or absolutely not, I don't need it, it's not even worth the trip across the field. So again, what does my soil sample and pH say? What are the nutritional requirements of the crop I'm growing? The next thing is, what is the chemistry of the product that I'm trying to use? What is that nutrient makeup, and how are those nutrients balanced? These things can throw some crazy numbers out in some situations. And so we really need to know what the chemical makeup of that product is. And so, what is it going to do? We need to be sending samples off on these products, finding out what that nutrient makeup is, how those nutrients are balanced, because if those nutrients are not balanced in a way that our plants can uptake those nutrients, we may have another problem. And an example of that is recyclime. We use a lot of recyclime here in Emmanuel County on some of our row crop fields. But one thing we have to remember when we use that product is we need to apply extra nitrogen at planting, because that recyclime, the balance of those nutrients throws off the ability for those plants to bring in nitrogen at that point. So again, know what the chemical makeup, the nutrient makeup of that product is. And one thing to remember with that is that these byproducts will vary so greatly from load to load. So it's not something as simple as let's send off one sample from the plant and find out what we have. These products are constantly changing. They're just like poultry litter, constantly altered, so no load is going to be the same. So it's going to be very critical that if you're using these products, to make sure that we're sending off several samples to determine what the nutrient components of that product are. The other thing to do is to simply know what that product is supposed to do. So these guys should not be selling them as quote unquote fertilizer. It should be labeled under soil amendments. But if you don't know what that product is going to do, and I get some people that come in and say, hey, they want to put this out on my field, and the first question that I'm going to ask is, what's it going to do? And sometimes we can't answer that. So know what they say it's going to do. An example of that is dog food water. And that's just what I call it, but it's essentially the wastewater from the dog food plants. And I started asking some questions a couple of years ago about that product, and nobody can really tell me what that is going to offer to the land that it was being put on. So know what it's going to do. Know not only what's in the product and how that product is going to react to our plants and in our soils, but also what the nutrient availability within that product may be. So sure, we may know that it's got 70 pounds of nitrogen in that product, but if it's only going to allow for 60% availability of nutrient availability, we need to account for that in our fertilizer program. And so a good example of that is chicken litter. We use it, tons and tons and tons of it every year. We send off a lot of samples for those. One thing to point out, just kind of as a quick blurb, UGA will actually send poultry litter samples only, all for free, with the exception of some shipping. So if you were to bring a poultry litter sample into Emmanuel County, I'm going to charge you shipping, but the actual test is free. And so keep that in mind. So if you're using poultry litter, it'd be a good opportunity to get some of those tests covered. But with poultry litter, we're only going to get about 60% of the nitrogen that is available in that ton of litter. And we'll get about 80% of your phosphorus and potassium. So we need to know what that nutrient availability is so that we can account for how much fertilizer that the plant is going to have available to it during the growing season. The other thing is knowing what the application entails. And so an example of that is this poultry water, the dog food water needs to be knifed in. If you've ever seen the knifing in process, it has to be done exceptionally well. Otherwise, you start making messes. Another issue that we see with both of those products are they have a lot of oil in them. And so they usually end up on your tractors, on your trucks, things like that. And it's very difficult to get off. It smells absolutely horrid. So know what that application entails. Another example of that is recyclime. So we use a lot of recyclime in this area, and it's a great product. With row crops, we're going to incorporate it ever so slightly in some situations, more in others. But in a hay field, we're not going to incorporate it. And if I'm selling hay, then I may not want ground up newspaper in the hay that I'm going to be selling. Now, there's no data to suggest that it's problematic for any of the livestock. And if they were to consume it, again, we don't have any data saying that it's an issue. But again, if I'm selling hay, I don't want trashy hay trying to sell it because it has recyclime particles in it. So know what that application and process entails. Know how much it takes to do what it claims it's going to do. So I've heard some astronomical numbers. I've heard anywhere from 2 tons to 20 tons of this product this product or that product is going to be required to do what the company says it's going to do. And that's all fine and good, but knowing how much it's going to take is going to also help you make the decision not only of if I'm going to use it, but when I'm going to use it. So if we're going to do recyclime and we know it's going to take 3-4 tons, and I'm going to put it maybe let's say in a hay field. Let's say I've decided that I'm going to do that. We need to do that in the fall of the year so that we're not smothering that spring that green growing grass, because it can actually end up hurting us in the long run. So again, know how much it takes to do what it claims it's going to do. And the other thing I just want to have you guys consider going forward and using these products is this product feasible enough that it's also going to be the best economical decision on your operation? Because free isn't always free. Cheap isn't always cheap. I've always been told you get to pick 2 of 3 of these. You can pick cheap and easy, or you can pick cheap and good, or you can pick easy and good, but you can never have all 3 of those. So cheap, easy, and good. You'll never get all 3 of those. So some other things to contemplate to make sure that we're making the best decision on our operation to be productive as well as profitable. We've got to account for the application cost. If we're having to go over the field a couple of times, it may not be worth it. If we're going to have to spray it 3 or 4 or 5 times across, or knife it in 3 or 4 or 5 times across, then it may not be the best option. We may be better off to use a commercial fertilizer. If we're going to have to put out extra nitrogen, 50 units with the recyclime at planting, if we're going to, when you start talking about that extra 50 units of nitrogen, it may be, again, cheaper to use a product that's already blended and has the perfect analysis for us already. And so, talk with your county agents, talk to people that have worked with this stuff or that have some data accompanying these byproducts before we start putting them out. Because it's super important in a year like 2025 is expected to be, where cropping prices are not where we want them to be, even remotely. We've come out of a year where we were hit hard with a lot of things. And so we're going to be trying to stay afloat this year is a lot of times our main goal. It is imperative that we are making the most profitable and sustainable decisions going forward. And so just be conscientious of everything that you're putting out, everything that you have on your farm. And for today, the sake of today's talk, some of these byproducts we certainly recommend. We certainly have opportunities to use them, and they can be good. But we really need to know what we are doing what we need to do with those products before we agree to using those. So again, I'm just going to run through that list real quick. What does my soil sample and pH say? What are the nutritional requirements of the crop that I'm going to use? What is the chemistry of the products? How are the nutrients balanced within that product? Know what those products are supposed to do. Know what the not only what the nutrients are and how much are in there, but also what the availability of those nutrients are going to be. Make sure we're sending off samples. Know what the application entails. Know how much it's going to take. And then make sure that before you decide to use them, that you're taking into account what it's actually going to cost to have it put out. How many trips across the field am I going to have, and am I going to have extra fertilizer because I'm using those products? So again, your county agent wants to help you make the most profitable and sustainable decisions on your farm. So make sure you're getting with them. We've got some good data on a few of these products that we can certainly help you make these decisions. I've got a lot of good budget opportunities for you guys to use through Excel to determine maybe if we can cut costs in one way or the other. But just make sure that you're working with your county agency, you're working with your fertilizer dealers to make those good decisions going into 2025. That being said, we're going to swap gears a little bit. Going to talk about some upcoming events. We're at the tail end of production meeting season. So we have make sure that you're talking to your county extension agent about those, and if you have any that are still going on. If not, they can certainly put you maybe in a county that might coming forward. We have another couple events coming up that are going to be great events. Certainly recommend doing those or going to those and being a part of those. A lot of great information at these events. So one of those is going to be a forestry program at the Burke County Office Park Auditorium on March the 5th. That's going to be a 9 to 3:30 event. Registration is required for that event, but you will also, with that one, you can get some continuing ed credits for that, and some pesticide license credits for that if you have forestry or private pesticide license. We have the beef cattle short course down in Tifton on March the 4th, followed by that with the bull sale on March the 5th. We've got the small ruminant summit, the UGA Sheep and Goat Summit on March the 7th. That is up in Athens. It's a really good event if you have small ruminants to attend. On March the 13th in Statesboro, we have the Rural Stress Summit. Registration is again required for that. So if you're interested in going, please let us know. If you're a social worker, you can get continuing credits for that. On April the 3rd, we have the Vidalia Onion Field Day. That'll be at the VOVRC over in Lyons. That's always a really good event to attend if you are an onion grower or in the onion industry. And then on April the 11th, we have Grassroots 365, which is a forage program up in Oglethorpe County. I will actually be speaking at that. And so if you'd like to attend that, certainly let us know. That being said, if you have any questions, you need to talk to anybody, please contact myself or Blake. We're certainly glad to help. However, you can keep up with events and things going on our Facebook page, Tilling It Like It Is, or our website, Tilling It Like It Is. But that being said, we certainly want to thank you for joining us today. And just keep tilling it like it is.
Up beside him, Blair and beside Merle, he said there's still some good in this world. He said the Hag was a poet for the common man. Got him through his tour in Vietnam. He was the first dance to a brown-eyed girl when there